The story that refused to end. Every story ends, even unfinished ones. That's what we believe. We expect structure, a beginning, a middle, a conclusion. Resolution gives us comfort. It tells us that whatever we just experienced has been contained, framed, completed. But what happens when a story refuses to end? A new episode was uploaded 3 days ago. No announcement, no premiere countdown, no social media post. It appeared quietly, as if it had always been there. The thumbnail was simple: a dimly lit room, a desk, a chair, a clock on the wall. The title read, "The Episode That Never Finished." At first, nothing about it felt unusual. The channel had posted similar content before: slow, atmospheric storytelling, minimal editing, long pauses, controlled pacing. Viewers clicked. The opening minutes were calm, almost too calm. A host seated at a desk speaking softly about narrative structure, about how endings define meaning, about how completion gives reality its shape. There were no jump scares, no glitches, no hidden frames, just a man speaking clearly to the camera. And yet, something felt slightly off. The room seemed still in a way that didn't feel natural. The lighting didn't shift, the shadows didn't breathe. The clock on the wall ticked, but the sound didn't quite align with its movement. Most people ignored it until the video stopped, not gradually, not with buffering, not with an error message. It stopped at exactly 17 minutes and 42 seconds. The screen froze mid-sentence. The clock on the wall froze too. At first, viewers refreshed the page. They cleared cache. They checked their connection. Same result: different devices, different countries, different networks, different time. 7:42. The comments began to fill. Mine stopped too. Is this intentional? Why does the clock freeze? Has anyone gotten past this? Thousands tried to skip forward, dragging the progress bar beyond the timestamp. The video didn't lag. It restarted. From the beginning, no warning, no transition, no explanation, as if the ending refused to exist. And then, buried in the comments, one message appeared. Just 3 words: "I finished it." The account that posted it no longer exists. Not deleted, not suspended. It simply never existed. No profile, no history, no trace, except for the replies still asking what they saw. The episode is still online, still stopping at 17:42, still waiting. Because maybe the problem isn't that the video won't end. Maybe the problem is this: some endings are not meant to be reached. The point where time stopped. At first, no one assumed it was deliberate. The video behaved like any other upload. It had a runtime clearly displayed beneath the title, 1803. A perfectly ordinary length, long enough to feel substantial, short enough to hold attention. Nothing about the platform's interface suggested anything unusual. The progress bar was intact. The description field contained a single sentence, open quote, "Every structure depends on its ending." Close quote. No hashtags, no links, no credits, just that line. The episode itself opened with the host seated in a simple room. The environment was minimal, almost sterile. A wooden desk, a neutral wall, a single frame picture positioned slightly off-center, and behind him a circular wall clock. The clock ticked audibly, not loudly, but clearly enough to anchor the silence between his sentences. He spoke about narrative theory, about how humans crave resolution, how uncertainty creates tension, how tension seeks release. He explained that stories are psychological contracts. When someone begins watching, they subconsciously expect closure. Without it, the experience feels incomplete, unfinished, unresolved. His tone was calm, academic, measured. There were no sudden cuts, no background music, no visual effects. It felt almost boring, which is why most viewers were caught off guard when it stopped. At exactly 17:42, mid-sentence, the host's mouth partially open, as if forming the next word. The clock behind him frozen, the second hand suspended between ticks, no fade out, no glitch distortion, just stillness. Then silence. For a few seconds, viewers assumed buffering, but the play button remained active. Pressing it did nothing. Dragging the timeline backward worked. Dragging it forward past 17:42 triggered something else. The screen blinked. The episode restarted from 0, cleanly, smoothly, no lag, no error code, as if someone had gently pressed rewind. At first, this was dismissed as a compression error, a corrupted upload. Perhaps the final seconds hadn't rendered properly. But the timestamp under the video still read 1803, meaning there were 21 seconds missing, 21 seconds that existed in theory, but not in experience. Soon, viewers began testing it methodically. They switched browsers, they downloaded the mobile app, they mirrored it to televisions. The result was consistent. Always 1742, always the freeze, always the reset. Someone suggested screen recording. If the platform refused to play beyond that point, perhaps capturing the playback externally might reveal something. Several people tried. Each recording stopped at 1742 as well. Even more strangely, the recorded file's duration displayed as 1742, not 1803. It was as if the final segment had been erased at the file level, but only after being accessed. The comment section transformed into an investigation forum. Users compared time zones. They synchronized watches. They watched simultaneously in live chat threads, counting down the seconds together. 1740, 1741, freeze again. One detail began to surface repeatedly: the clock inside the video. At first glance, it appeared static throughout the episode. But when viewers rewatched carefully, they noticed something subtle. The second hand ticked, but not consistently. Sometimes it skipped. Sometimes it lagged half a beat behind the audio tick. Sometimes it advanced slightly ahead. On repeated viewings, the time displayed on the clock was not identical. At 10:12 into the episode, one viewer reported the clock showing 3:15. Another viewer, watching at the same moment from another country, saw 3:17. The difference was small, but measurable. Screenshots were shared. Comparisons were made. The time inside the episode was not fixed. It drifted, slowly, almost imperceptibly, as if the environment inside the video was not a recording, but a space continuing independently. Then someone noticed something even stranger. In the final seconds before 1742, the host's posture shifted slightly between viewings. A subtle lean forward, a slight adjustment of his shoulders. Too small to be intentional performance, too inconsistent to be compression artifacts. The video was not identical each time, not dramatically different, just slightly, as if minor variations accumulated with each attempt to reach the end. Theories multiplied. Was it an interactive ARG, a server-side script preventing completion, a hidden branching file? Some attempted to inspect the page source. Nothing unusual, no alternate file path, no conditional playback trigger, just a standard embedded video player. One developer claimed they accessed the direct media file link. When downloaded manually, the file displayed its full length, 1803, but when opened locally, it still stopped at 1742. The remaining 21 seconds existed as empty duration, blank data, silent, yet somehow protected. Then came the pattern. Every time someone tried obsessively, replaying the episode dozens of times in succession, the clock inside the video appeared closer to 1742 at the start of the next watch, not in actual runtime, in its displayed time, as if it were counting down independently, moving towards something. Viewers began to wonder, was the episode incomplete, or was it resisting completion? The host's lecture earlier in the video took on new meaning. He had said, an ending does not simply conclude a story. It locks it. Locks it. What does that mean? Why design a video that cannot be finished? And why include a runtime longer than its accessible content? The questions shifted from technical to conceptual. Perhaps the final seconds were not missing. Perhaps they were conditional. Perhaps the episode required something from the viewer. Not a password, not a code, but an action, an alignment, a precise moment. Speculation intensified when one comment appeared, buried deep in a thread discussing the clock discrepancies. 3 simple words: I reached it. No elaboration, no description, just that. Replies flooded beneath it within minutes. How? What happens? Is it different? Is there an ending? The account did not respond. Within hours, the username became unclickable. The comment remained, but the profile behind it had no traceable existence, no join date, no comment history, no avatar cache. It was not marked as deleted. It was simply void, as if the platform's database had no memory of it ever being there, except for the text. I reached it. After that, the atmosphere changed. People stopped treating it like a glitch. They started treating it like a boundary. And boundaries exist for a reason, because maybe the episode wasn't broken. Maybe it was functioning exactly as designed, preventing something, or protecting something, or waiting. Still running, still freezing, still stopping at 70:42, still leaving 21 seconds untouched, but present, like a door that can be seen, but not opened, not yet. When the boundary started watching back, curiosity became obsession. The moment someone claimed they had reached the end, the episode stopped being a glitch. It became a challenge. Viewers stopped passively watching. They started experimenting. They coordinated time zones. They watched simultaneously in voice chats. They counted down together. 1740, 1741, freeze, reset, again. But something began to change. Not dramatically. Not in a way you could immediately prove, just slightly. The host's voice in the final minute sounded closer. The microphone quality felt more intimate, as if he were leaning toward the viewer. And the clock no longer drifted randomly, it was converging. Across screenshots shared globally, users noticed the time displayed at the beginning of the video was slowly approaching 1742, not matching real time, not matching upload time, matching the stopping point, as if the entire episode were orbiting its own ending. Someone slowed the footage down frame by frame. At 70:41.8, just before the freeze, the host's eyes moved, not blinking, not shifting naturally. They locked onto the lens, directly, intentionally. That detail hadn't been noticed before. Earlier screen recordings showed his gaze slightly off-center. Now it was aligned, centered, focused, watching back. The comment sections grew more unsettled. This feels different. Was that always there? His expression changed? Why does it feel like he's waiting? The platform's algorithm began recommending the episode more aggressively. View counts spiked. Reaction channels attempted breakdowns. But something strange happened to those uploads. Any video that played the final seconds, even clipped, froze at 1742 as well. Not only the original, the reaction videos, the analysis videos, the reposts, anything containing that timestamp. Even screen captures embedded in other videos experienced a micro freeze at the same second. It was subtle, half a second at most, but measurable. The anomaly was spreading. One programmer claimed to isolate the final 21 seconds by extracting audio data directly from the file. He posted spectrogram images online. For 17 minutes and 42 seconds, normal waveform. After that, a flat line, but not silence. Encoded data, dense, compressed, unreadable, like a locked file inside a file. He attempted to convert it. The extraction software crashed. He tried again with a different tool. The file corrupted. On the third attempt, his system clock resets him, not visually, system-wide. As if time itself had glitched, he stopped posting updates after that. His thread remains unfinished. Meanwhile, the original comment, "I reached it," still existed, pinned in screenshots, preserved in archives. But the username attached to it rendered as blank space. No letters, no clickable link, just absence. Users began reporting something more personal. Those who rewatched the episode repeatedly, dozens of times, described subtle auditory differences. A faint extra breath layered beneath the host's voice, a second ticking, slightly out of sync with the clock, a whisper underneath certain words. No one could isolate it clearly, but enough people described the same thing to make dismissal difficult. One viewer wrote, "I think it's responding." That comment received thousands of replies. Responding how? To what? To attention? To repetition? To intent? The theory emerged that the episode did not function linearly. It adapted. Each viewing altered it slightly. Each attempt to reach the end brought it closer to something. The clock inside the room was now almost always near 1742 from the first minute onward. Its second hand trembled occasionally, not smoothly ticking, quivering, as if resisting movement. Then came the first documented anomaly outside the platform. A live stream group attempted to synchronize 100 viewers to press play at exactly the same second. They streamed their experiment publicly, multiple screens visible, all starting together, all progressing identically. At 1741, the host leaned forward, more noticeably than ever before. The ticking stopped entirely. Total silence. In the live stream recording, all 100 screens froze at once, but something else happened. The stream chat, unrelated to the video player, stopped updating for exactly 21 seconds. No messages appeared, no system notifications, just stillness. Then everything resumed, except one participant disconnected. Their webcam feed went black. Their username disappeared from the call list. They did not rejoin. Later, viewers discovered that their social media accounts were inaccessible, not deleted, unsearchable. Cached links returned errors. It was as if their digital footprint had been trimmed, not erased violently, just removed. Quietly, the fear shifted tone. It was no longer about a missing ending. It was about consequence. People began asking a different question. What happens if you actually reach it? Because the host's whisper in the final second was now clearer. The audio had sharpened. The words were unmistakable. If you reach the end, you won't come back. Earlier uploads of the episode had faint distortion over that line. Now, it played cleanly, crisp, intentional, almost compassionate, as if it were a warning. Some viewers stopped watching entirely. Others doubled down, determined to prove it was a coordinated hoax, a marketing experiment, an elaborate performance piece. But the channel itself remained silent. No community posts, no replies, no acknowledgements. And its previous videos, ordinary mundane essays, now had comment sections filled with a single question: is this connected? In older uploads, the host occasionally referenced completion, finality, irreversibility. Lines that once felt philosophical now felt instructional, recontextualized. One archived live stream from months before showed him saying, "Once a system closes itself, it cannot reopen without loss." At the time, it seemed abstract. Now it felt like preparation. Meanwhile, analytics data shared by viewers revealed something else. Average watch duration for the episode was increasing. More people were replaying. Longer sessions, repeat loops, as if the episode were feeding on engagement or measuring persistence. And the clock inside the video, it finally aligned perfectly with 1742 at the beginning of playback. On every device, every country, every rewatch, it no longer drifted, it had arrived. The episode had synchronized with its own ending. And in the final frame before the freeze, something new appeared. So brief it required frame-by-frame analysis. A single overlay of text, not part of the original composition, not in the metadata, just one frame. White letters on black, visible for 1/30th of a second. Completion is irreversible. After that discovery, something subtle changed in the viewing experience. The reset felt slower, not in actual speed, in sensation. Like the system hesitated before sending you back to the beginning, as if asking, "Are you sure?" Because escalation is not loud. It does not explode. It tightens, gradually, until the boundary is no longer technical. It is personal. The episode still stops at 1742, still resets, still waits. But now the question isn't whether it can be finished. The question is whether it should be, and whether the ending is locked or protecting you from what lies beyond it. The 12 seconds beyond the freeze. It didn't happen all at once. There was no announcement, no visible breakthrough, no proof, only one moment and one viewer. No one knows exactly how they did it. Some say it was timing, some say it was coincidence, some say it was persistence. The archived comment remains the only trace. I reached it. But this time something else surfaced. A screen recording, not uploaded publicly, shared privately in fragments before the account vanished. 12 seconds. That's all anyone ever described. 12 seconds beyond 1742. For the first time, the episode did not freeze. At 1741, the host leaned forward, closer than ever before. Not subtly, intentionally. The lighting shifted, not flickering, not glitching, but dimming, as if the room itself were lowering its brightness. The ticking stopped. The clock's second hand did not freeze. It disappeared, not broken, gone. At 7:42, instead of stopping, the video continued. But the progress bar did something strange. It no longer moved forward. The timestamp stayed locked at 1742. Even as the footage advanced, time was progressing visually, but not numerically. The host did not speak immediately. He held eye contact with the camera, unblinking, not menacing, not aggressive, just certain. And then he said it again, softly, clearer than before. If you reach the end, you won't come back. But this time, there was no distortion, no compression artifacts, no faint audio layering, just silence surrounding his voice. Then he did something that had never happened in any prior viewing. He stood up, slowly. The chair behind him did not make a sound. He stepped out of frame, The camera did not follow. It remained fixed on the empty room. The clock on the wall was no longer there, just a circular outline where it had been, a lighter shade of paint. As if something had been removed. 5 seconds passed, nothing moved, no music, no ambiance. Then the audio shifted. Breathing, not from the room, not from the host. Close, intimate, directional, as if the microphone were no longer inside the video, but in front of the viewer. The person who described these 12 seconds said the breathing matched their own perfectly. Inhale aligned with inhale, exhale aligned with exhale. At first, they thought it was imagination, until they deliberately changed their breathing rhythm, held their breath. The audio held too, exhaled sharply. The audio followed. The synchronization was exact. The final 3 seconds contained no visuals. The room slowly darkened, not to black, to absence, like the screen was losing depth, collapsing inward, and just before everything faded completely, text appeared, centered, white, without animation. You are outside now. Then the screen cut, not to black, to the channel homepage. No auto restart, no reset. The video's runtime now displayed as 1742, not 1803. The extra duration was the viewer attempted to replay it. The freeze returned, the ending inaccessible again. But something had changed. When they refreshed the page, they were logged out. Their account session invalid. They attempted to log back in. Error. They checked their email. No associated account found. They searched their username from another profile. Nothing. Their comment history? Gone. Subscriptions? Gone. Watch history? Gone. It was as if their digital identity had been pruned from the system. Not banned, not flagged, removed. The only reason anyone knows these details is because they sent direct messages to several users moments before disappearing. The fragments align, 12 seconds, breathing, synchronization, text, you are outside now. The most unsettling detail wasn't the disappearance. It was what happened to the episode afterward. Immediately following that event, viewers reported that the final minute felt different again. The host's posture at 1741 was no longer leaning forward. He was already standing, barely visible at the edge of frame, watching, as if aware someone had crossed. The clock never reappeared. In any viewing, from that point onward, the wall behind him remained empty. A faint circular discoloration marking where the clock had once hung. And the whisper? It changed. Not the words, the tone. Earlier, it felt like a warning. Now it felt like confirmation. If you reach the end, you won't come back. Not threatening, not cautioning, stating, like a rule. Viewers attempted to recreate the breakthrough. They synchronized breathing. They dimmed their rooms. They matched the lighting. They aligned playback with real-world clocks at 1742. Nothing worked. The freeze held. The boundary restored. But subtle consequences lingered. Several users who claimed to feel close to reaching it described temporary anomalies, their screen brightness adjusting without input, audio volume lowering at 1741 automatically, cursor freezing for a fraction of a second, tiny interferences, nothing provable, nothing permanent, but enough to disturb. One live streamer attempted a controlled experiment. They played the episode while monitoring system diagnostics, CPU usage, network traffic, clock synchronization. At 1741, a brief spike occurred in system time calls. Milliseconds, too fast for normal processing. Then the freeze. When they scrubbed through the recorded system log afterward, 12 seconds were missing. Not skipped, not blank, absent, as if those seconds had not occurred. Meanwhile, the original runtime listed on third-party archives began updating retroactively. Older cached versions now displayed 1742 as the official length, as if history were rewriting itself, erasing evidence of the missing 21 seconds, and the channel, still silent. No explanation, no monetization, no ads on the episode, no attempt to capitalize on the attention. The video remained minimal, static, untouched, except for one detail noticed weeks later. The description had changed. It no longer read, "Every structure depends on its ending." It now read, "Completion is irreversible." Nothing else. No timestamp of edit, no update notification, just replaced, quietly. And that is when the theory solidified. The episode was not hiding an ending. It was filtering, testing, selecting. Perhaps the ending is not a sequence of images, not a final scene, but a transition, not within the video, within the viewer. Because if the breathing aligned, if the time locked, if the clock disappeared, then maybe reaching the end doesn't extend the story. Maybe it removes you from it. You are outside now. Outside what? The platform, the narrative, the structure that contains observation? What does it mean to be outside a story? Or worse, what does it mean for the story to step outside of you? The climax was not loud. No jump scare, no explosion, just 12 seconds, and one absence. The episode still freezes at 1742, still resets, still refuses completion. But now it feels less like a malfunction and more like a closed door, because someone opened it once and they did not return. And maybe that is the ending, not the one inside the video, the one outside it. The world that quietly corrected itself. After the disappearance, the tone shifted, not dramatically, not with panic, with restraint. The comment sections that once moved at frantic speed began slowing. Theories became shorter, speculation less confident. The episode was still online, still stopping at 1742, still resetting without error. But something in the atmosphere had changed. People no longer asked, "How do we finish it?" They asked, "Should we?" The user who claimed to reach the end was never recovered. No confirmation, no return. Attempts were made to track archived fragments of their activity. Cached comment threads were examined, timestamped screenshots compared. All digital traces ended within the same minute. There was no dramatic deletion log, no violation notice, no automated message, just absence, like a profile that had never been created. And yet, replies to them still existed. Questions directed toward a person who, according to the system, had never been there. The contradiction remained, and contradictions lingered. Over time, fewer people attempted coordinated experiments. Live stream attempts stopped. The last major group synchronization event ended before 1742. The host on screen at 1741 no longer leaned forward. He stood, already, watching. He did not move toward the camera anymore. He waited, as if the action had shifted, as if the responsibility now belonged entirely to the viewer. The breathing audio never returned in normal playbacks, but some viewers described a new sensation, not sound, not image, awareness. At 1741, right before the freeze, they felt observed, a subtle tightening in the chest, a pause in thought, a sensation difficult to articulate but consistent in tone, as if something were measuring attention. The platform's analytics eventually stabilized. The view count plateaued. The surge of curiosity burned out. Reaction channels stopped referencing it. The algorithm recommended it less frequently. It faded from trending spaces, yet it never disappeared. The video remained accessible, silent, static, waiting, and the description remained, "Completion is irreversible." No further edits, no clarifications, nothing added. Months passed. Then a small anomaly surfaced. Users who had obsessively watched the episode during its peak reported something subtle. Their watch history no longer showed repeated plays, only a single view. Regardless of how many times they had replayed it, one view, as if the system had condensed their interaction into a single instance, not erased, compressed, reduced. More unsettling was what happened to archived versions of the video page. Third-party snapshot services that had previously captured the original 18.3 runtime now displayed 1742 retroactively. Older screenshots shared online still showed 18.3, but fresh retrieval attempts from archival databases reflected the shorter length. History was not rewritten publicly. It was quietly aligned, normalized, corrected, as if the longer duration had been an error that never should have existed. Conversations about the missing 12 seconds grew quieter. The tone shifted from urgency to doubt. Memory became unreliable. Did anyone actually see it? Or were the descriptions influenced by collective suggestion? The fragments shared before the disappearance were inconsistent in minor details. Some mentioned total darkness. Others described faint room outlines. Some recalled the text centered. Others said it appeared slightly lower on the screen. The breathing synchronization detail remained the most repeated element. But even that became questioned. Was it psychological alignment? Mirror neurons responding to expectation? Or something else? No definitive proof remained, only testimony and absence. Eventually, even the comment "I reached it" began behaving strangely. Sometimes it appeared in the thread, sometimes it did not. Refreshing the page altered its position. Occasionally it was missing entirely, only to return hours later. No moderation tag, no removal notice, just inconsistency. Users began screenshotting it daily, tracking its presence like a pulse, but the frequency of those checks declined. People moved on, new content replaced it, new mysteries surfaced. The episode settled into digital obscurity. Yet those who had watched it closely described a lingering effect. Not dramatic, not life-altering, just subtle. A heightened awareness of endings, an unease when media concluded abruptly, a momentary pause when progress bars neared completion, as if something in them hesitated at thresholds. A few reported dreams, the same room, the same desk, the wall behind it blank, no clock, just the faint circular outline. And the host standing slightly off-center looking toward them, not speaking, not threatening, waiting. No one reported crossing the threshold again. No further disappearances confirmed. No verified replication of the 12 seconds. The boundary held. And over time, the interpretation changed. Perhaps the episode was never about what happens after 1742. Perhaps it was about the awareness of the limit. The freeze became symbolic, a visible barrier, a reminder that not every structure is meant to be completed, that some narratives close not with resolution, but with refusal. The absence of the clock remained the most tangible change. Early archived copies clearly showed it. Now, in every accessible version, the wall was empty from the beginning. The clock had never existed. According to the current file, no mounting mark, no discoloration, just smooth paint, clean, unbroken. It was as if the episode had simplified itself, removed extraneous variables, stabilized, and perhaps that is what aftermath truly is. Not chaos, not collapse, correction, normalization, a system sealing itself. Because if someone reached the end, if someone stepped outside, then maybe the episode did not lose a viewer. Maybe it completed one. And completion, as it warned, is irreversible. The most disturbing element is not that someone disappeared, it's that nothing dramatic followed. No investigation, no news coverage, no viral explosion. The world continued. The platform continued. The episode remained, frozen at 1742. And maybe that is the final proof. Whatever happened beyond that point did not break reality. It integrated seamlessly, like a completed circuit, like a closed loop, like something that found what it was looking for and stopped. The episode never finished, but it no longer tries to. It simply exists, waiting at the edge, not asking to be solved, not asking to be opened, just presenting a boundary and reminding anyone who watches, some endings do not conclude a story. They conclude the one who reaches them. Completion is irreversible. Every story ends. That is the rule we trust. Even when a story feels incomplete, even when it cuts abruptly, even when questions remain unanswered, there is still a boundary, a final frame, a last line, a point where the narrative stops and we return to ourselves. We close the tab. We move on. We carry the experience as memory. That is how structure protects us. The episode never finished. It never offered resolution. It never provided explanation. It simply stopped at 1742, again and again. And maybe that was never a malfunction. Maybe the freeze was the ending, not the missing 12 seconds, not the rumored continuation, not the whisper, not the disappearance, the freeze. Because in that moment, you confront something rare, a limit. You press forward, it refuses. You drag the timeline, it resets. You attempt to complete it, it denies you. And denial is a form of closure. We assume endings are revelations, a twist, a confession, a final image that reframes everything. But what if an ending is simply a door that will not open? What if completion is not about seeing more, but about being stopped? The episode warned you, if you reach the end, you won't come back. We interpreted that as threat, as danger, as loss. But perhaps it was literal in another way. Perhaps reaching the end does not remove you from the world. Perhaps it removes the world from you. Completion is irreversible. Why? Because once something fully resolves, it can no longer generate tension, no longer hold potential, no longer exist as possibility. An unfinished story lives. It loops, it echoes, it remains active in the mind. A finished story closes, it becomes contained, stable, past. The episode never allowed itself to become past. It remains present, perpetually, frozen at the edge of its own conclusion. And in doing so, it does something unusual. It keeps you inside it. Every replay, every attempt, every pause at 1741. You are participating in its structure. You are sustaining it. The boundary is not technical, it is experiential. You expect progress, you are denied it. And that denial forces awareness, awareness of watching, awareness of expectation, awareness of completion itself. In the rumored 12 seconds beyond the freeze, there was darkness, breathing, text. You are outside now. But maybe outside was never physical. Maybe outside means outside the loop, outside the tension, outside the unfinished state. And perhaps that is what cannot be reversed. Once something truly finishes, it cannot become unfinished again. Once a loop closes, it cannot sustain itself. Maybe the episode protects itself by refusing to end, or maybe it protects you. Because consider this, if you had reached the final frame, if the progress bar had filled completely, if the screen had faded naturally to black, you would have closed it, you would have moved on, you would have forgotten. Instead, it lingers, a fragment, an interruption, a question mark embedded in memory. The clock disappeared, the runtime corrected itself, the anomalies normalized, the platform continued, life continued, nothing dramatic followed. And that is the most unsettling part. Reality did not fracture. The world did not glitch. The system absorbed the event, quietly, seamlessly, as if whatever boundary existed was internal all along. The episode still waits at 1742, still freezes, still resets. But now, when you think about it, something feels different. You are aware of the threshold, you anticipate it, you approach it carefully, and in that approach, something subtle shifts. You become conscious of endings, of progress bars, of completion, of the way stories train you to expect resolution. The episode never finished, but maybe it was never meant to. Maybe its purpose was not to conclude, but to reveal the structure of conclusion itself, to show that endings are not just narrative devices. They are permissions. They allow you to leave. And if permission is never granted, you remain. Completion is irreversible, not because something terrible happens beyond it, but because once you complete something fully, it cannot hold you anymore. The episode refuses to release you. It denies its own conclusion, and in doing so, it remains. There is no final glitch, no final scare, no confirmation of what lies beyond 742. Only a boundary, only a pause, only a reminder that not every structure is designed to close. Some are designed to stop you, right before you think you understand them. The ticking fades, silence, and in the darkness, one final line appears. Every story ends, even unfinished ones, fade to black. No outro music, no recommended videos, just stillness, and the awareness that somewhere a progress bar is waiting to reach a point it never will.
Share